Stay a while and listen.
Hi, and welcome to Seriously Pointless Conversations about Culture, your seriously pointless conversations podcast about all your nerdy and geeky things throughout the infernal plane. Today, I am joined by the illustrious James. How you doing, man? That's right. You shall still sit a while. So, today, if it isn't obvious yet, if you guys are not steeped into this as much as we are today, guys, we're going to throw down some serious OG knowledge on I would say, one of the cornerstones of the RPG world, Diablo 2 from Blizzard Entertainment.
This has spawned an entire series of games. I guess Diablo 1 was the original.
Yeah.
Which was huge. But Diablo 2, even bigger.
Just phenomenal. But before we just dive deep into the demonic spectrum, as you were, the demonic planes, and fight off some baddies and send them back to hell where they belong. James, what have you been up to, man?
Well, I've been playing Monster Hunter Rise a little bit.
It's my shame face.
Now, I'm a Monster Hunter noob.
You are.
I didn't even beat the Diablo guy in Monster Hunter World, so but I thought I would get this one, and I've been playing it. And since it's the Japanese setting, I picked the most weeboo weapon, so I've been playing.
That's right. That you did. So I came over and watched you play it. It looks really. I was really kind of hesitant to maybe get involved with it, but I might. I don't know. I kind of want to. A little part of me watching you play yesterday in my sleep-deprived haze. It seemed pretty cool.
It plays really well. There's some nice quality of life improvements to it. It does not have the same degree of polish that Monster Hunter World did.
It's okay, though.
Someone more into the franchise told me that Monster Hunter World was made by the development A team, and this was made by their B team. It's obviously built on the same engine. I think it's a great game. We'll probably talk about it at some point.
Well, obviously, yeah, we've definitely got the loose script set up for it, so that's a little bit of a spoiler for future episodes, possibly. But yeah, I have to say though, watching you play, they do have quite a few niceties I've seen thrown there. It's definitely not as pretty as the last one.
And part of that is it's a Switch exclusive, so it doesn't have the same hardware that even the PlayStation.
A lot less power to go behind it, obviously.
But despite that, the loading times are a lot faster. Which
Maybe
is almost as good as good graphics, as far as I'm concerned.
I would rather have fast load times than crazy good graphics because, like I said, at a certain point, my eye is not that good, and I'm getting old, so it is what it is. But yeah, so you've been playing. I saw you were playing, obviously.
And Binding of Isaac Repentance came out.
Yeah, holler.
Damn, it is harder.
It is really?
The biggest thing that makes it worse is the shot speed of all the enemies in hard mode.
Has it been up?
Significantly faster.
Well, that's just rude.
And a lot of their animations have been changed, and so it's a lot prettier. It's a lot nicer, and I'm sure once I get used to it, it'll be fine. But for right now, my muscle memory is working against me, and I am struggling to finish a hard mode run, which is just shameful.
It's okay.
But even Sinvicta on YouTube, who has 1,000 Eden win streak, still died a few times starting out. So,
well, you got to start somewhere to build those muscle memories back up. But I'm a little hesitant. So I'm curious. Do you know if they're going to be releasing it for Switch at all or any other platforms? I would think they would.
I'm sure they will. I mean, why wouldn't they?
A little part of me kind of wants to wait for the Switch version so I can play it on there because I really like it on the Switch.
Play it on whatever platform you like.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, I think I've dumped 1,000 hours into it on the Switch.
Damn.
No, wait, take that back. Maybe not 1,000.
1,000's a lot.
Maybe not 1,000. Maybe at least 100. I've put at least
100. Okay.
Okay, take that back. It's 100. I put 100 hours into it. So that's ridiculous in my opinion. After playing it on the PC and then I'm playing on the PlayStation because it released for free on the PlayStation for one of the monthly games a while back, and I played it for maybe 10 hours on the PlayStation, which it's basically I liked it better on the PC, but when I played on the Switch, it was just a whole nother ball game. It's just made
Yeah, in
for
my mind,
handheld.
if you're going to have it tied down to a stationary console, the PC is the way to go.
No, absolutely.
But if you want to be able to pick it up and carry it with you, the Switch is awesome.
Well, I mean, it's great
And I
because
think the two joystick interface is perfect for Isaac. It
oh,
works
absolutely.
just fine.
So, like I said, it depends on what preference you have. So, I'm gonna wait a little bit. I know that.
I haven't looked this up, but I'm guessing they're just going to get the first couple major bug patches in and then release it, because whenever they release patches for games on consoles, it has to go through a verification process, and it's a colossal pain in the butt for developers.
Yeah,
so.
it's not like the PCs where they're just like, here.
It's not like Steam where you can push out a patch every 12 hours and no one cares.
And nobody cares. Seriously, yeah. That's the one nice thing about PCs is they do that. They don't really care all that much. But yeah.
Give it a month or two. I'm sure it'll be there.
I bet it will. So I actually have been enjoying some Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's what I've been doing, honestly.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Have you not seen this? So you're not a big MCU guy as big as I am. So this is following kind of you're not,
because they just had a movie about that, right?
They had the Winter Soldier movie a while back, which involved bringing Bucky back into the MCU, which Bucky is Captain America's friend, and he basically got brainwashed by Hydra, had a vibranium arm put on him,
that part, yeah.
and so he's like BA in this. Well, in this one, it's like the aftermath. So I don't. You haven't seen any of the Endgame, and
I saw Endgame.
Oh, you did? Okay,
yeah.
So you know that
I haven't watched anything since Endgame.
Okay, so
I caught up with everything for Endgame, and then I've kind of fallen behind again.
Okay, so have you seen the very end, after they go back through time and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know that Captain America basically passed. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of doing the fallout of what happens if Captain America is gone. What happens? Who takes up his mantle essentially?
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool concept because you have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and they kind of embody the two parts of Steve Rogers. You have Bucky, who is he has the ideals of what made America great and things like that. But then you also have Sam, who I think it's Sam Wilson. I think his last name is Wilson, but he's the Falcon.
Yeah.
And he basically kind of embodies new America and that idea of what is right in the world and the optimistic ideals of America, of new America. And they both kind of embody a little bit of each of Captain America, and they're kind of side saddling it together. They're kind of buddy copping it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's fun. And I really kind of want to see what they do if they do give the shield, if they end up saying, hey, you're going to take over the spot as Captain America. But right now they have this, for lack of a better word, a tool is taking over the mantle of Captain America and has the shield. And he's another military guy, but he's kind of going off the rails in this last episode. So
clearly you know where the plot's going.
I know where the plot is going. But it's still really fun to watch. But shout out to the actor that plays the new Captain America guy. He has actually gotten legitimate death threats from people.
Really?
Because they've when they started playing it, he people were I freaking hated this guy. He's a jackass. I'm well, of course he's a jackass.
Well, that's clearly the point of the show. He's supposed to be a jackass.
He's supposed to be a jackass, and you're supposed to hate him because he's not Steve Rogers.
Yeah. And
people are losing their shit over this.
He's going to be triumphantly struck down and replaced. I mean, this is
God. I hope so.
Story.
And I think people are getting way too invested in this. And don't get me wrong, I really like the story. I was man, I was looking up some stuff because I wanted to see who the actor was and things like that. And they're blah, 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 actor receives death threats for portraying new Captain America. And I'm wow, you people are just way into this more than I am. I'm this is a nice pastime for me. So,
yeah, I mean, people got better things to do now, right?
Well, I'm an adult and you're an adult. We have better things to do. So let's put it that way. I think people that don't have a life, maybe, I don't know. But anyways, so without digging too much into it, but I've been doing that. But I've also before, as you know, before my computer decided to pass on into the next life.
May it rest in peace.
That's right. So hopefully that's what my project for tomorrow will be. I've got the parts ordered and I'm going to try and plug everything in tomorrow and see if it'll run. So we can get some handy dandy episodes written up. But
we have the technology.
That's right. He will be the $1 million man, which somebody's $1 million to make a man? That's cheap. You feel like the $1 billion man now. So I'm going to be playing, I want to play some more Raft with you. That's what I want to play.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I had on my
I'll be
plan.
back for some Raft.
I wanted to play it, and I don't know when I'm going to play with you now because of everything
Well,
at
you're
the computer.
switching. Yeah, if you're back on days, we can just pick an evening or two. And Kelly and I
Well,
will sit down and play for a few
yeah.
hours.
Well, fingers crossed. Like I said, I'll have to switch over. I'll be off in the middle of the week or like a Monday, Tuesday thing, probably. And we can work it out. But yeah, that's kind of what I have planned on doing that. So,
Anywho, Diablo 2.
yeah, talking about games that we're probably going to sink way too much time into in the near future.
So everyone's probably heard that the Diablo 2
Yeah.
remaster is going to be coming out.
So that's the real reason why we're kind of talking about this, because just watching the alpha footage at this time. So today is April 9th, 10th, something like that. Yeah, it's April 10th.
The streamers got a hold of the technical alpha a couple days ago.
Oh my god! And they've been streaming the shit out of it.
Watching the Llama SC and the Debrunsky and some of those guys, and damn, this game looks beautiful.
It looks amazing. I was hesitant. We talked about this last episode, I think. We were both a little kind of like on the fence, like which side is, are they just going to like be nice and just reskin it, or are they going to do like a technical revamp of the game and put some niceties into it? It looks like they're doing a little bit of both, honestly, from what I've gathered.
It really does, and I was worried too because Diablo 3 was kind of a train wreck. I mean,
yeah,
it was pretty, but it didn't feel dark and gritty.
It had no soul
like a Diablo game.
It was
Diablo games. You should watch it and question your place in the universe.
It was straight up demonic. It had no soul. I mean, it was basically like an infernal summoning. They're like, if we
cartoonish. I mean,
let's summon this and see if we can get money out of this. Basically,
but this looks really gorgeous.
And if they keep doing what they're doing, and from what I've noticed with the technical aspects and the revamping of the skins and everything, it's going to be totally worth the $60 that they're going to charge for it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I would be totally down to play this.
I mean, just to have it play natively on the new architecture, to have it support new graphics cards and stuff, because the game was getting old enough that it was starting to get harder to make it even run on a new computer.
Which we'll talk about this a little bit here. I've actually have that. I totally sucked some stuff out of the Wikipedia about that. So it's pretty cool stuff. So let's talk about the humble beginnings of whatever Diablo 2 is. So Diablo 2 is an action role-playing game, computer video game that was developed by Blizzard North, technically, and then it was published by Blizzard Entertainment in 2000 for Microsoft, for Windows, Mac, classic Mac OS, and then Mac OS, the new one. It is a dark fantasy horror type game, and it was conceptualized and designed by butcher these names, I apologize, possibly David Brevik, Eric Schaefer, and also Max Schaefer. These guys are the project leads, and they basically headed the game for about 3 years while it was made.
And this came on the tails of the incredibly successful Diablo 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
I think it came out in 97, 98?
97, 98. So like they
97,
started on this like the moment Diablo 2 came out. It was obvious how big it was going to be.
Oh yeah. So did you ever play? Did you play Diablo 1 at all?
No, I started the franchise when Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction hit. That's whenever I got into it because one of my uncles got the whole family into it.
Yeah, and that's a whole other ball of wax.
I touched on Diablo 1 and I played it a little bit. I got to like the first act or something, but after having played Diablo 2, it was hard to kind of go back.
You can tell that because I actually played quite a bit of Diablo 1 recently, probably within the last like 2 years, because I was curious and I was like, I wonder if I can get something to this, and I had to like I had to run Windows 95 in a virtual box to play it, but it was great in a virtual machine to play it, and I was like, well, this is fun. I'm like, but at the same time, like you said, you can tell that they definitely put a lot more effort into the second one. It's like that freshman try essentially for Diablo 1.
The core ideas are there. Like, absolutely, you have the characters, the types of enemies, the types of combat, a lot of the spells are all the same.
Yeah.
You don't have the same progression though. There's not like talent points. The itemization is much more limited and much simpler.
Very much.
The builds are all kind of cookie cutter. I mean, it's the first take at a new genre.
Well, to be fair though, too, this was about the same time that I think Windows XP was getting ready to come out, or
Right around that time.
Windows
yeah.
2000 is that what it was?
2000 was first, and that
Yeah.
was like 99 or 2000, and then XP
Yeah.
was the fix to the terrible
And so you
2000.
have the truth. So you have a whole brand new operating system that they can throw on, and Windows 95 had been so solid and had been around for so long that they had a lot of limitations for it. And so you have a new operating system to throw things on. At this point, computer gaming had started to get humongous. This is like a little after Doom came out and all those folks and Wolfenstein started to get big. And so graphics,
graphics was more available, and this was
and processing
also,
power too,
and also the internet was getting easier because
much easier.
If you ever played like the original, 95 stuff, like Doom 95 or something, even setting up two computers on the same network took some serious technical know-how to get them set up so they could play with each other, like to the point where people were just playing these games at work where the computers were already set up.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is
when this is when plug and play high speed internet that
was not a thing.
That any old fool could just the 2000s are when you could just set it up.
Yeah,
like the company would come in, they'd plug in, you'd plug in your computer, and it worked. It didn't require. You didn't have to set up, bridges. You didn't have to set up peer-to-peer portals.
Oh my god!
You didn't have to, get a second line.
Dude, I'm getting flashbacks to having to be over to your house, and we're doing we all had our computers over there setting up LAN parties, essentially trying to make things work. Because we did it a couple times where we wanted to play things like this all over at your house, and luckily your dad.
It took 2 hours to set up the internet. We'd play the game for an hour.
Well, yeah, it would have happened. It would be it'd take an hour and a half of us trying to figure out how to set it up properly, and then we'd go ask your dad, and your dad would do it in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so this is reaching back into the vault now, so excuse me if my details are wrong, but because we had a second, he worked from home as a computer consultant, so we had a dedicated second phone line to the internet.
Yes, you did.
Which was nice. But you couldn't just dial up the internet into the network.
No,
one computer connected. So his computer connected to the internet.
Yep.
And then we had to set up a peer-to-peer bridge between his computer and every other computer that wanted to be connected to it. And that was a pain in the ass.
It truly was, because I remember you had to go in and configure it and just make it just right. And it was, if you can imagine,
it had to be configured on both ends too.
Yeah. And if you didn't do it just right, you'd have to go in and reset it and all this other stuff. Yeah. I remember taking hours to try to get it done. But luckily, he was there to, give his expertise. Yeah, and usually we started this stuff at around 7 o'clock at night, and he'd do it. And finally, after 9, he goes, "Don't wake me up to fix this. If you can't, don't wake me." I remember vividly saying, "If you can't figure it out after this," and I fixed it. He goes, "Leave it alone. Don't wake me up."
I'm going to bed.
It's pretty much what it was. And I was like, "Okay, got it." But let's get into the technical know-how about Diablo, kind of doing our past lives here. But so. Like you said you were introduced to it initially via your family members, right? So your uncle.
Yeah, this is my Uncle John, the same guy who got us all into Red Alert 2. We talked about it in the
obviously.
Video.
Good taste in games.
Yes, he was. He still is a massive computer nerd, but at the time he was way into games too.
Yeah. And
he got me started on Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction at the same LAN party at the school that we did the Red Alert in. So,
hypothetically, I'm just saying.
So for this one, I started playing it. My dad actually played this one.
He did.
You played it. Chris played it. I think everyone who was anyone played Diablo 2.
As far as I know, everybody in our school group actually played it, because I'm trying to remember. Tim played it with us. Cole played it with us. I don't know if Alex actually played with us on it, but I know the vast majority of our friends, even after getting into high school, played it with us because
played it.
And I was just amazed because this came out right around, we were in 8th grade, I think, when it came out, about that time. And I remember we even played it once we got into freshman year of high school, and even sophomore year, just for fun. And I just remember having a blast with it every time. Anything that can last for 3 years of playing. That shows that it holds the test of time. It's a bedrock in your life at that point. So, but yeah. So, let me ask you this: what is your biggest memory of Diablo 2? Do you remember was it the the story? Was it there's just the memories of sitting around playing with guys, or was it just the hours and hours of trying to figure out what combinations in the Herodric cube you can make?
A bit of everything. I mean, I remember the cutscenes at the time were breathtaking.
Yeah.
And especially going through the first time, those were awesome. I remember the rush of finding unique items, especially the little gold items, were super exciting.
Every once in a while, you could get one, but they were pretty rare. I know that.
So here's one thing. I remember being very angry at my father.
Okay.
So at the time he was playing with us, and the original Lord of Destruction stash, before people started modding it, was really, really tiny.
Yes.
And so you couldn't hardly save any gear for later. And I had found the Orb of the Tal Rasha set.
Yeah.
Which I was playing a sorceress at the time, so I was super excited about this. And he saved it in his stash for me for later.
Obviously.
I was trying to put together the pieces, and he decided at some point that games were taking over his life, and he needed to be a good father. And he did the Catholic thing, and he gave up the game for Lent.
Oh,
he deleted it off his computer. It was gone. He moves on and starts doing more stuff, whatever. Yeah. But then I later find all the other pieces for the Tal Rasha set except the freaking orb, and he's deleted it, and it's just gone.
You're just like, what?
I remember spending hours looking through his computer and looking through his recycling bin, hoping to find his save file, and I just couldn't.
He perma deleted it because he knew he knew
come back.
Like a good crack addict, he goes, give me that fix of Diablo 2.
He was playing an Iron Golem Necromancer.
Ooh,
at the time.
That's good stuff.
He was having fun, sacrificing items and making the big Iron Golems.
To be fair, though, I did do that for a while. So we kind of dipped our toe into it with the classes. Do you remember the different classes that they have in there?
Oh, Amazon, Assassin, Barbarian, Paladin, Sorceress, and Necromancer.
Okay, and Druid. So those
Druid and Assassin, I think, were the ones for LOD that got added on.
Yes,
yeah,
I believe. Yeah, Druid and Assassin are the add-ons. Which that's if I think. Let me look. Yeah, so those are the ones that are added on in there. So we get those are added in there. Do you remember? I know we kind of talked about this a little bit, anyways. Do you want to go over the basic kind of gameplay of? What do you want to do? Do you want to do story development, or what would you like to do? Let's talk about the development.
Let's do development first,
because that'll make a little more sense. So
because we can yap about the gameplay forever.
God, so. Yeah. So, this game was set shortly. It's set. The Diablo 2 is set basically directly after Diablo 2.
The implication a year or two might have passed, but it's not much.
So in the first game, just to kind of set it into idea for everybody that hasn't played Diablo, you sealed away the Lord of the not the Lord of Destruction. You sealed away Diablo, who is the main protagonist in the first one. Lord of Terror. And since they started almost like you said immediately building Diablo 2 after the release of Diablo 1.
Well, and the story too is that you didn't just destroy Diablo, you actually sealed him into yourself.
Yep.
Which is it took me a while because I didn't play the first game to realize that the Wanderer in all the cutscenes for Diablo 2 is actually supposed to be your character from the previous game.
Even though, you probably could have picked a woman in the first game, and it's just
no, you couldn't.
You couldn't?
The sorcerer's character was actually a sorcerer.
Oh, I thought it was a gal.
There was a rogue. They were all male choices.
Wow. Sexist, Blizzard. Sexist.
Well, there wasn't that many girls playing games.
No, not as many. No,
gaming's got more mainstream.
It's definitely fleshed out a little bit. So after the success, obviously we said of Diablo 1, they immediately started on Diablo 2, and it's actually nowadays it was cited. It's been cited as one of the greatest, most popular games of 2000, and if not one of the greatest games ever made.
I mean, gosh, how long were they selling that battle chest at full price?
Years.
The Diablo
2010 probably.
Yeah, the Diablo 2 battle chest was Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and the Lord of Destruction expansion.
Actually,
almost together.
2015
and
probably.
I think I saw it 2015, even 2016. It's still on the shelves in stores.
Yeah.
It was full price for 15 or 20 years after the game came out.
Yeah.
And you can still pay 30 or 40 bucks for it.
Easily. And if you want to get one of the original ones where it came with some other stuff, I think it came with the statue, and I think
oh, the collector's edition.
The collector's edition.
Some serious money now.
Yeah, legitimately. Especially if you kept it boxed, that's legit. So So like we were saying, Diablo 2 is an action role-playing game, computer game that was developed by Blizzard North and published by Blizzard Entertainment back in 2000. But it's in, why did I do that? That seems redundant. Sorry. I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, that does seem
Anyway,
redundant.
It was a super popular game in 2000.
Yeah.
One of the big things which we touched on earlier when we were talking about internet being better was that they also released Battle.net around the same time.
So that allowed you to connect to the internet and play with other people.
Yes, it was like this online. It was a combination of like a chat room and like a matchmaking service and like a trading channel.
Yeah,
for gear. And actually, a lot of the Blizzard games went through Battle.net at the time.
And they still have Battle.net, but it's more of like a hub now as opposed to what it was before. It's kind of like
before
they've taken,
it was like a lobby, and now it's just
like a game hub. Yeah, and they've basically kind of taken those ideas and they've stuck them into each individual game now, to where they kind of have that lobby and things like, so like with like WoW and things like that, they have that lobby system where if you want to do like a raid or something, you can queue for it or join.
Actually, remember something from Battle.net? There was hardcore characters in Diablo 2. This is actually one of the first games supported a permadeath hardcore as a core mechanic of the game. But on Battle.net, if your hardcore character had died, they would replace the avatar of your character with like a gray hooded, head figure. But it would still have the name of your class and your level. And I remember getting on Battle.net and seeing people with these hardcore characters who died at level 70 or 80 and thinking, man, I can't even get through Act 1.
Yeah, really. I was like, and I die like all the time.
The shame.
Yeah, the shame. And so to be fair, that's another thing they, like you said, they threw in there initially. And I only ever played hardcore like a handful of times because it frightened me to death to think, what if I got to all the way to like Act 5 in the Lord of the Destruction expansion, and of course you get to that Bale fight, who is like super hard if you're by yourself, and I die. Well, what do I do then? It's just like, and that just frightened the shit out of me because I would probably would have punched through my computer because I had some anger issues back in the day. Let's be fair. So,
and at the time, Diablo 2 was a punishingly difficult game.
Yeah, it really was.
Especially the higher tier difficulty. I mean, you watch streamers now who've been playing it for 15 or 20 years and they make it look easy, but it was quite a difficult game.
That's because you've had 20 years to master the ins and outs and all the cheap things you can do to get around it and things like that. So, but it's really kind of an interesting game that it added all these really niceties and things like that for people to try and get into. And it was, I think the biggest thing that it had going for it was so much more accessible for the general public, not just PC gamer enthusiasts like we were. Because like you said, this was at the point where like you started to see people come in and even though maybe they had a home computer, you didn't have to have anything fancy or crazy to play this.
No.
I mean, that's one of the things is like nowadays, it's not like nowadays where you have to have a freaking monstrosity of a rig to play things like Oculus Rift or whatever it is,
You did need an actual graphics card, which at the time, most people were using chipsets, but
you didn't have to.
It helped.
It definitely did help, but I mean, you're only going to pay like what? You'd only pay like $100 for a graphics card then?
Like that, yeah.
This is back before they're like...
You can get a out-of-the-box computer from the store.
Yeah.
Which, people bought computers that way before.
Yeah, they still do, but it's not like it wasn't.
You could just throw a graphics card in it and be good to go. I remember doing that for your parents' computer. Like we bought a graphics card and put it in ourselves.
Didn't tell my dad about it.
We even told him that we did.
And whenever he found out about it, about 6 months later, because he saw me like dicking around with it because I was looking around in it. This is back when you were just getting me into all that stuff. And I was really kind of just getting kind of interested in like the different CPU parts and the different little things on the motherboard. I was like, oh, okay, what's all this jazz? he was like, "What are you doing?" You know, like freaked out when he saw me. He was like, "What did you do to the computer?" And I'm like, "It's okay. James showed me how to do this." And of course, he immediately freaked out because he's like, "God dang it!" Like, what did James do to this computer? And I'm like, "It's okay. It runs better. It's okay."
Yeah, no, people still do this, but it was even worse at the time where people would spend $800 or $900 on an e-machine or whatever, one of these, internet computer machines, and the promise that they got was, buy our computer and you'll be able to use the internet and email, and people were getting it so they could get email pretty much.
Yeah.
And then kids would get on it and there'd be a virus or something would go wrong and they wouldn't know how to fix it.
Yep.
And it'd be like, well, I can take it to the computer repairman who's going to charge you $200 or $300, or you can just buy a new computer. I knew a lot of families who had 2 or 3 perfectly good computers sitting in a junk pile in their room.
Exactly. Isn't that insane?
Because they didn't even know how to run like a basic antivirus because their kids got on LimeWire.
People are still like that, dude. Like, I love my parents to death, but like they do that still. Like they'll look at their computer and like, "What's wrong with it, David?" And I'm just like, click, click, clean. I'm like, it's like 2 seconds. I'm like, let's calm down here. And that's I don't know how you are. Luckily, your dad he's in that tech realm.
I got lucky that he was a tech guy and he kind of taught me how to do it, and the knowledge spread amongst our friends.
That is the one thing that I've been ever so grateful.
And it gave us all a big leg up.
Oh, absolutely. Even just a basic working knowledge of like how operating systems work like this helps you kind of like, hey, if I want to go in and like say I want to install this on my computer and tweak the settings on it a little bit on Diablo, I need to do that and I can make it run, or I can overclock something a little bit maybe. Mm-hmm. And you'd be amazed at how many people in nowadays world, they just don't know how to do that stuff. And they just like, they're like, well, I literally have to go online to get a tutorial to know how to do this. And I'm like, I've done this for years. I'm like,
it's easy.
I'm like, it's super easy. But yeah,
okay, here, one more story. This is getting off topic. This was really good.
Yeah, we did really.
But no, this is even better. So back in the day, I was really into desktop themes for my computer. So
I think I might know where this one's going. Go ahead.
You probably know where this one's going. So
continue.
So we used to do anime desktop themes.
Yes.
And it would change your background and all the sounds and the mouse and everything else. And one time I got a Tenchi Muyo theme.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Continue.
And my mother got on the computer and it changed the error message to the character Washu going, "Where were you when they handed out the brains?"
Yes.
And that happened about once before she started yelling at me. And the logging off message was a character complaining about how you're killing them and deleting them. And
I remember this. She
freaked out.
And your dad probably thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
My dad probably thought it was hilarious. I still remember him sitting down there with a straight face telling me I couldn't do that anymore. Looking back, I admire him for not laughing at me whenever that happened.
Because he did the father thing, and he's just like, I have to find, he goes, your mother complained to me about this. Even though I think this is funny, I have to talk to you like an adult, and you have to take this off. That's
your mother being happy is more important than the joke you were making.
Because I'm going to spend the rest of my life with her, so this is what's going to happen.
Anyway,
that's the kind of thing you give up for marriage, guys. So just be prepared for that. So. Anyway, so that's I know exactly what you're talking about because I remember you put that on your computer and I remember seeing that and I'm like, this is so cool. And it was like literally the next week or something like that, or maybe a couple weeks after I came over. It was just gone, and I'm like, you had explained that to me why it was gone, and I'm like that makes no sense. I'm like, why was she mad about that? And I was just like, it was like, how I was just completely oblivious at the time because we're like prepubescent boys that just don't understand that kind of stuff.
Something I didn't know until much later was that she had bad experiences at work because they started using computers in hospitals to do things a long time before that. And the original generations of computers literally had a delete button on the keyboard. And if you hit it, it would just delete everything you'd done.
Yes.
And so that's why a lot of our parents are so terrified of just messing things up and killing it all, is because when they first started using computers, there wasn't a warning message saying, hey, do you want to delete stuff? It just did it.
Yeah, it just did. Like, oh, you know what you're doing, so go ahead and delete this.
It's like, you wouldn't be sitting at this workstation if you didn't know what you were doing, so we're just going to do exactly what you said.
About that. So many people didn't know what they were doing, so. But anyways, getting back on topic.
So the story of Diablo 2. So, like we said, there was the Grey Wanderer, who was a character from the previous games. It opens with this cutscene of the Grey Wanderer traveling through like the Rogues camp, I believe is what it was.
Yes. So
Or Dark Wanderer, not Grey Wanderer.
Yeah, he starts off like you said, walking through there, and you kind of you go to, I think he starts in Tristram. Tristram is where he's at.
Yeah.
And that's where the first cutscene basically shows him kind of
He meets Deckard Cain. He
yeah.
sets the church on fire and
Yeah.
summons a bunch of demons, I think.
And so you can kind of tell that even though you are, well, the original character from Diablo is containing Diablo's having a severe influence upon him at this point.
Corrupted.
Absolutely.
And which cutscene was the one where he like throws back his hoods and like shows off the horns and stuff?
That's in second act whenever he goes and gets the Herodric cube.
Yeah.
Or not the Herodric cube, where he basically I think he releases his brothers is when in the second act is what he does.
Yeah, there was like a spirit of the Herodrim or something that was guarding Duriel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he releases.
That was the anonymous Tal Rasha. That's right. Tal Rasha's spirit was still there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So bringing back. I see. This is like making it all. It's all flooding along because I haven't played. To be fair, I haven't played the actual Diablo 2 in probably a good 7 years. So
anyway, the story kind of follows as this Dark Wanderer is traveling through the world.
Yeah, and you're kind of following. You're kind of like
he's working to free the greater demons, and you're kind of following behind him,
2 steps behind, essentially.
The messes as you go.
Yeah,
and eventually he manages to open a portal to hell, and he goes to Diablo's Sanctum of Terror, and Diablo's reborn.
He basically just essentially morphs into Diablo, and then I think he also releases all of his brothers too.
He does. He frees Mephisto and Andariel and Duriel.
Yeah. Siblings, if you would, because Andariel's a lady. Which, to be fair, that was my first.
And then Bale jumps in for the expansion pack.
That's my first encounter with CGI'd boobies, and I was just like, "What is this? This is so creepy looking." That she's got all these little spider things on her, and I'm like, "This is creepy."
Oh,
so
Andariel, yeah, because she has okay, I'm not sure if this is podcast appropriate, but
it
she
doesn't
has
matter.
Legit nipple rings and chains and stuff. And this is just in the game.
Yeah, so
the graphics are so bad that you can't really be sure what you're making out, but you're like, what?
But nowadays, nowadays you're like, oh, those are nipple rings and those are on her boobs and she doesn't have anything covering herself.
Well,
so it's just
early 2000s. This was some seriously off the wall risque stuff for the time.
That's why it's rated M for mature, James.
Why it was rated M for mature.
Oh my goodness. So as you go through each of the acts, you basically have to fight one of the lords, or not one of the lords of hell, essentially. Each one left. So
either one of the lesser or one of the
greater ones. So that's in the first act. You kind of land in the rogues camp, and you go through and you kind of have to go and fight Andariel, who's I think, is she the Mistress of Pain? I can't remember. I think it's what she's called.
Yeah, you free Deckard Cain from his torments.
And he is kind of the one of the central guys that they bring throughout all the games, because he's in the first game, I believe, and he's in the second, and he's also in the third game. And from what I've gathered, he's supposed to be in Diablo 4, which I don't know how.
Didn't he died in the third game?
I don't remember.
He died in the third.
He did? Maybe his daughter is going to, or his daughter.
One of the many reasons I didn't like Diablo 3.
They killed Deckard.
They killed off Deckard.
I don't remember. This shows how much I paid attention to that game. So I think they'll definitely, hopefully have his daughter at least in the third or in the fourth one, because you have to have somebody that says stay a while and listen, and you can automatically identify your shit for you. So. Yes. But so you meet, like you said, you meet Deckard Cain. He comes back to the camp. He's basically like your giant walking living tome of knowledge at this point. And you go through, you clear all the areas, and as you go through these areas, you essentially level up. That's the whole RPG portion of it. And you gain skill points.
Yeah, you do quests. There's 6 in each act.
Yeah.
Each one of them has a reward.
Very basic quests. Yeah.
I mean, then those are, you kind of do them, and that progresses the story moves with the areas. Some of them might give you a free skill point.
Some something like that.
A stat boost. Some just kind of progress the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, you gain levels. You get ability points, and you get talent points for their talent tree.
Yep.
I mean, it's your quintessential action RPG.
It's and this, if you look at some of the gameplay on that end of like the skill tree and how you level up, that is a lot of like what Blizzard bases a lot of their games on nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean,
or like for a more modern one, if you've done like Torchlight 1 or 2,
yeah,
or what was
very
the
much.
one like Sanctuary? I think was 1 too. There's quite a few
That's
Diablo clones out there.
I'm thinking Salt and Sanctuary. That's something different though.
Yeah.
But a lot of nowadays, a lot of RPGs that have like talent trees where you can level up your character and get skill sets. This is essentially the system that they build off of. That you get skill points and you're able to drop them into them. Which Diablo actually pulled this from Dungeons and Dragons D&D, and that's where they get a lot of their fun thing from. Which, fun fact, did you know that the original battle chest actually had a Diablo 2 D&D campaign in it?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I kind of want to get a hold of a copy of that.
You cannot get it anymore unless you buy it like on eBay, which I think go for a ton of money. Like it comes with like a special like set of dice, a special like little like campaign folder that like basically has an outline of like, you know, you go through the quests, special character sheets and everything. It's pretty cool.
That sounds pretty awesome. I'm going to see if I can find that.
You could probably find it. You're probably going to pay close to $500 for it, probably somewhere.
I don't want it that bad. I was thinking like 10.
You're like, I give you 10 for this.
Well, maybe they reprinted it on the Wizards of the Coast, like
I'm sure
Dungeon Master.
I'm sure you can find it. I'm sure you can find a PDF of it somewhere.
Probably.
So
it's out of print, so no one cares.
So after you kind of go through the first act, do you want to kind of go through the different stages, the different acts that you go through?
Yeah, so Act 1 is like in the Rogue's Camp, like we said. You find Dario, and then you follow the Wanderer as he travels east. And that takes you to, what was the name of the city? The East, Kurast.
Kurast, which is
like a desert type area. And that's where Deckard Cain tells you there was this ancient order of mages called the Haradrim lived there.
Yep.
And they imprisoned Duriel here. Yep. And he thinks the Wanderer is going after Duriel, so he has you go collect pieces of like his legacy, which is the Haradrim Cube, which is one of the key items for the game. It lets you combine other items together to make new things. And then you have to find the staff and the amulet that they were using to imprison Tal Rasha. And eventually you find it, and you find that Duriel hasn't been set free, and you have to fight him. And then it takes you to the swamp.
The swamp. I remember the swamp area,
which is very lore heavy. I think there was the Zakram, which was some type of paladin order. I think that I guess became corrupted over time. Yeah, and they had Mephisto imprisoned. You know, we don't need to go through blow by blow, but eventually Mephisto is freed, and Mephisto opens up the gateway to hell because the Wanderer was wanting to get to hell because there he can be reborn as Diablo.
Yes.
And so eventually Mephisto opens the doorway to hell for him. He goes through the door and he gets reborn as Diablo. And then you have to cross the plains of hell and fight him in his like Temple of Terror.
Yep. And then do you want to tack on the expansion?
Sure. So, and one last thing is like the plot of this game was that the reason the prime evils have been able to be reborn is they put their bodies into these soul stones.
Yes.
Or their souls are go into these soul stones after death, and then it's from there that they're reborn. And so you have to find like the smith of evil and use his hammer to destroy the soul stones.
Yeah, and that's
like the Hellforge.
Yeah, and that is in Act 4. In Act 4, which is where you defeat Diablo. And it actually kind of like,
and that's your final task is to take his soul stone back and break it.
Yep, and then you gotta break it there. That's the final act. That's the final task in the main store in the main game. But in the expansion portion, you actually have to go to the World Stone, which is where Baal, who is like the big brother of all of them, he is the Lord of Destruction. So he's like the final evil that you have to fight. You have to go into you remember what the town is called in it's the Barbarian Town. It's what I call it.
It's Barbarian Town, Mount Ariat.
Yeah, and
Pandemonium Fortress. That's what it is.
And then that's where you go, and you have to basically fight your way all the way up to the Worldstone Mountain, and basically end up finding Baal at the very end.
Baal's plan is there's this crystal at the heart of Mount Ariat, which is like the world crystal or the world soul, and it is like the soul stone for the entire planet. He is going to use his soul stone to corrupt it.
Yeah, which, to be fair, why would you want to live on a planet that has a soul stone that can be corrupted or destroyed at any time? Seems a little like
Okay, it's super cool though. I used the idea in my D&D campaign, and you liked it then. So
to be fair, yes, I did. So I really did like it because I knew I could see potential for corrupting
you
it.
can see
So
where it was coming from.
yes, I could totally see it. And I'm really kind of like wanting to get back into that game a little bit. That campaign a little bit. That was a really fun one.
I'm in a better place now. Maybe we could look at that.
That would be really fun. But anyways, so
Kelly would be happy about that.
that would be really fun. So let me ask you this before we move on. What was your favorite act out of like which of those settings did you like the most? Do you remember?
Which act was the best?
Or were at least your favorite? Can we ask that?
Probably Act 5.
You liked 5 a lot?
5 was cool. There was a lot of cool, unique monsters in it.
Yeah.
There was these ballistas. It was like this big open battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't feel like it had as many like fetch questy things going on as some of the other acts did. Probably Act 1 and Act 5 were my favorite too.
So the beginning and the end.
Yeah, Act 2 for me, it kind of drags on a little bit because there's a lot of pieces you have to collect.
Yes.
And every piece you have to collect has like 12 different places it could be. And, you know, it just kind of drags on.
It was kind of randomized a little bit, and it kind of was a little annoying. So, I preferred, honestly, I liked Act 4 a lot. Act 4 and 5. So I'll agree with you on the end. I was not a huge fan of Act 1. The only thing I liked the most in Act 1 was the Hidden Cow level and Wart's Leg. So those are the two things that I liked the most in Act 1. But I felt like Act 1 was a little generic, I guess. And it's also the beginning of the game where you don't have a lot of powers going on. You feel a little underpowered sometimes. And it's not nearly as fun. I guess that's kind of why I liked it, like the 2-in ones, the 2-in acts, because you're almost... So at that time, if you play in normal mode, you're probably level 25, 30 by that point.
Yeah, I think you finish around 30 or 35.
If you play in normal.
Yeah.
And you have plenty of skill points. You've already hit the very end of your skill tree at that point.
Yeah, so whatever build you were trying to do has started working.
Yeah, finally. And you can kind of see like where how powerful you're going to be able to get, and you can really see kind of the end result. And that's why I think I like those a little bit more.
If you're playing a paladin, you've gotten vengeance at that point. You've gotten your holy shield. I mean, the sorceress has gotten meteor and frozen orb and stuff. And
well, yeah, and depending,
you've got your cool abilities.
So let me ask you this: going off that, what was your favorite class out of all of them?
Sorceress is the one I played the most.
Yes,
I did a frozen orb sorceress, and I didn't realize until decades later, after I finished playing the game, that there was a cooldown on the frozen orb itself. Like the frost bolts could only hit so often on an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I played a frozen orb sorceress. I think probably my favorite character in the long run was the Necromancer, though. It's just a lot of fun, and there's a lot of different builds you can do. Like you can do like a tooth or a bone Necromancer with corpse explosion. You can do a poison necro with poison nova and poison dagger. You can do just a skeleton necromancer, which is the ultimate lazy character.
It's really lazy. So
especially after patch 1.10 when they added synergies in, skeletons got really strong.
Really, really strong. So it's funny you say that because I initially started out as a barbarian kind of guy, and I got burnt out on that really quick. Barbarian and paladin were the two main ones that I played initially. But in the last, probably 5 years of me playing it while I was poor and starting off my current career, I played a lot of Druid and a lot of Necromancer. Like you said, I loved those two, mainly because you could summon or you could morph or whatever you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But Necromancer, like you said, was probably my favorite just because of the simple fact is I loved corp explosion. You can do so much damage with it if you had enough, things. And on top of it, it's like you could, if you wanted to, you could just summon skeletons endlessly and be super lazy if you really wanted to, just depending on which way you wanted to go with it. And if you didn't want to just do the summoning or skeletons, you could just focus solely on golems. You do a blood golem, you could do molten or fire golem, just whatever you wanted to do. It's just there were so many little variant things that you could do, and like you said, after that patch, that 1.1 patch came out, the synergies for the Necromancer were just ridiculous, dude. And I think it's where I really kind of gotten my love for the Necromancer summoner classes. But to be fair, though, I don't think I ever played. I don't think I played a sorcerer like once.
Yeah,
I just never got into her all
I
that
know
much.
assassins were super popular. I just never
I
got into that
tried.
character. The melee characters in general didn't work as well for me because I didn't like having to click on every enemy.
That was like, I think that's why I kind of got done with it. The only thing that really saved me with a paladin was I had that aura of thorns that I could deal with.
Yeah.
And I could literally just do passive damage to them a lot faster. And that's the only saving grace was I was a huge like mob controller that way.
As like a well-designed class, the paladin was awesome.
You could literally just go forever, not die.
I think like the candidate for best design talent tree was that first talent tree for the paladin because you could make a build out of every single skill on that tree.
Mm-hmm.
And they had 2 full trees of auras to support whatever you happen to want to do.
Yep. It says, do you want to heal all the friends in your party that you're playing with?
So they had like a holy hammer. There was like a lightning from the heavens.
Yep.
There was a holy shield, which every paladin took. Because why not? It's free block.
I'm pretty much,
They had like a smack you in the face vengeance type ability. I mean,
that was the whole skill. That was a whole skill tree. It was literally it was a vengeance build.
Yeah.
It's just like, I would do normally, I don't know if you remember your skill tree. I remember this like yesterday. So I would do the vengeance build. It'd be a vengeance, and damage reciprocating build. Is I would literally just have all like super high damage output on the vengeance stuff, and then I would have the couple like auras where it basically would redirect the damage back towards the people with the thorns and the heals.
Like vengeance, holy shield, and thorns aura.
Yes. And it was ridiculous. You could literally go almost an entire act sometimes and until you got to the very last boss without having to use potions at all. It was ridiculous. And I was like, this is phenomenal. I'm like, I think it's kind of why I kind of have I feel like you've noticed or not, but I play a lot of paladins in D&D when we play. So
it's close to your heart.
So I think it's kind of where I come in on that end. But so, like I said, we really touched on a lot of the gameplay stuff and the characters and skill trees. What else really sticks out about the gameplay about you? I mean, obviously, this is the axe and things like that.
So, I mean, the other core part of the gameplay we haven't really touched on yet is like the whole loot system it has. Yeah. This is I hesitate to say a loot grinder because it's not as grindy as the modern sense of that term.
No, not at all.
Especially some of the really modern games where there isn't even set items and you're supposed to just grind the rare items over and over again until you get lucky. But no, loot is a big part of the Diablo 2 gameplay loop where you're going out, you kill things, and there's different degrees of rarity. To my knowledge, is like where this whole system came from, where there's the white common items, the blue magic ones, the yellow rare ones.
And they have legitimately
they have gold unique ones, and they had green set item pieces.
Yeah. Which, if you actually look it up, you can actually find the percentage drops of each, what you could possibly get on each of these. And that's kind of where you get this idea that Blizzard started pushing this into WoW, which is essentially what you have now.
I think so. I think WoW's itemization system came from Diablo 2.
Yep.
And they had a whole system where your rare and your magic items would have different, what they call them, affixes.
Yep.
Where they had chances of having enhanced damage or enhanced defense or leech life or whatever. There's like dozens of the things.
Yes.
And a lot of these different magical affixes have become pretty standard in the industry.
Yeah.
Like, you have your damage reduction, you have thorns, you have enhanced stats or stat bonuses. I mean, a lot of the loot games that feature magic items and loot pretty much ripped straight off of Diablo 2.
Which, if you see something that works,
Well, it covers most of the bases, too. There's not a lot of other stuff you could make for new affixes.
I mean, you can probably call it something else, but it's going to be essentially the same thing. It's kind of like whenever I was playing Dragon Age, that's I think it was Dragon Age Inquisition, what it was. They had a lot of the same things that, Diablo 2 had. And I'm like, oh, this all seems really, familiar. And so as you're going through and you're looking at the different weapons that you can choose from and things like that, it's all the same stuff. And I'm like, this is essentially just a fancier version of Diablo 2 with a different story, a darker story.
And this is part of the reason why people keep coming back to the game is they got it right.
They did, dude.
I mean,
it's like
there's some quality of life stuff that has become more grating over the years.
Yeah.
The graphics are dated, but the game itself is still really good.
It's solid. It's so solid, dude.
Which is why I'm excited about this remaster, because they're just going to update the graphics and fix a couple quality of life things, and it'll be the same game. And I think it will stand up to all the stuff that's still out there. I mean, we've talked about it like a lot of older games where we say, well, for the time it was amazing, but today you might be a little bored. That's not the case with Diablo.
No. I would legitimately. So the only reason like I have not probably reinstalled Diablo 2 is because I don't think they don't support it anymore on Windows. The new Windows. The new Windows. I don't think they do.
They've released a couple updates over the years just to keep it compatible. But I think you still have to run it in a compatibility mode.
I think you'll have to do that, or you can do it in like a virtual box or something like that. But it just...
Yeah, one thing to mention, though, is mod support for this game has been outrageous.
Yeah, so that's another thing I enjoyed about it. Actually, I think it was Tim or you threw me on it.
I think it was me. I had the medium mod.
Yeah, the medium mod, which that was great, dude. So that revamped. If you guys like this game, you just want to like throw it up and like switch it around a little bit. This like completely throws up the talent trees. Doesn't it switch around the talent trees? It gives them new like skills and stuff like that, and kind of like tweaks the loot system just a little bit.
So Median XL is pretty much a complete game rebuild.
Yeah,
like all the talent trees are different. All the loot is different. The core story quests are the same, but there's this whole Uber boss mechanic where there's a lot of summon bosses, there's a lot of bonus areas, and you do these quests and you get these Uber charms, and it has its whole own post-game production. It's really a game to itself. And Median XL has been tremendously popular. More recently, Project Diablo 2 has been hitting the street. The streamers are doing this one now where it's more of a rebalance than a new game. Where Median XL changed everything it could possibly change. The Project Diablo 2, it buffs and nerfs some of the offending skills. It has tweaked some of the items. It has some new features, but it's still really core Diablo 2 type stuff, and that one's been pretty big lately.
So that would be really cool for us to check, or at least I might check that out once I get everything set up on the new PC. That would be really fun. And the fact that you could I think you can get Diablo 2. I'm sure we could find Diablo 2 online for free somewhere, and just play it that way until the new one comes out. We could probably get Zach to play that too, because I'm pretty sure he would be down for that.
I still got my original discs somewhere.
I think I do too, somewhere.
I wonder if the Battle.net store would let you just enter in your key codes, or if you're going to have to buy it again. They can't be that expensive now. I'll figure it out.
It's probably like $15, or not, if not less, maybe 20. But anyway, so I know we've just gone ad nauseum on all this stuff. So like, what do you think of like the future of the game? Do you feel like, obviously they're having the remastered version and things like that? Do you feel like the new Diablo 4 that they've announced is going to hopefully live up to the standards?
I'm hopeful.
Okay.
I'm not convinced. Diablo 3 was such a disappointment.
Yeah.
I know some people really love it, but it doesn't even feel like the same game. And that was a problem for me. Now, I know they've added more and more stuff over time, and I gather that it has its own huge community now, but watching them, mimic the art style of Diablo 2 and maintain that gritty, dark feeling has given me some hope for the future.
Yeah.
I see that there's going to be a talent tree of some type in the new game, which I think is good. That's a core part of the Diablo experience. When they moved away from that in Diablo 3, it wasn't really the same game.
It was a little sad, to be fair, yeah. I was not a fan of the runes and the different things that they were doing with
the runes and the modifiers, and there was just too much.
I think they were really trying with it, and it just didn't feel the same, like you said. And maybe that's just us being old men, get off my lawn kind of thing, but still
playing through it, you have all the abilities and the spells, and then every spell has like 3 rune modifiers, and they can all like modify each other. It was just too much.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to think about Diablo 4 yet. I haven't seen enough of it to know.
Yeah.
They're moving towards a more open world type thing, which is generally something I enjoy. Whether it's going to be done well in this game or not, I don't know.
So you would say possibly cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic. Now, for the Diablo 2 remaster, I am super hyped about it.
Yes.
Especially if they're able to maintain the level of mod support that the original Diablo 2 had. I think the game might be around for another couple decades.
I'm looking at it, and I was kind of hoping that they're able to do things like with the mods, kind of like they do with World of Warcraft stuff, the raid mods and all this stuff. Hopefully, I'm fingers crossed they're going to allow a lot of that kind of stuff. Like if you were to go and say you want to do like multiplayer mods, or you want to do item drop mods, or whatever it is, things you can add on for free. I hope they're going to allow that kind of stuff.
Because for the original Diablo 2, you name it, it's out there.
Exactly. So that's kind of why I'm hoping that Blizzard is going to be, hopefully this is them trying to get a little, how do I put this politely, love back, because there's been a lot of Blizzard hate over the last few years.
I'm not the biggest fan of the Activision Blizzard.
And I think that's mainly Activision sticking their fingers in things, telling them to do things.
And if I'm going to be really honest with myself, part of me is a little upset about the way they're double dipping on their classics, and they're making us love them by bringing back the stuff that they already know that we love.
Yeah.
Part of me is just happy to play the games I love again. So I don't know. It's a mixed feeling, but
well, I mean, it's kind of like, Binding of Isaac, right? Even that it's not the same thing to equate to, but it's still similar. It's like you've literally been playing the same game through 3 variations of it.
Yeah.
That's iterations of it. So as long as they do it well, like you're willing to pay $30 for the next version, right?
I mean, as long as it's good, then I'll play it.
So, and I'm totally down with that too. So,
my rule of thumb, I expect to get $1 of enjoyment for an hour of enjoyment for every $1 I spent on a game.
Yep, and I can attest that I will probably
it's still the cheapest fun you could buy. I mean, you couldn't buy a single beer at a bar for that price.
And to be fair, though, it's like I tell my wife all the time. It's like I can play video games, or I can go out and do cocaine and hire strippers. So it's your choice. Hookers and cocaine. That's what I was telling her.
What about fishing or something?
I know. Small steps, Dave. Small steps, right?
Don't throw straight to the hookers. I mean,
I know. You got to build up to it.
You can hook some fish first and work your way up.
Hook fish and then hookers. Yeah. Is that what it is? That's an awful pun.
That was the joke I was making.
That was an awful pun. Anyways, so all right, guys. So I'm glad everybody was able to stop by today and talk to us a little bit about Diablo 2. If you enjoy Diablo 2 as much as we have, if you're excited for the remaster that's coming out as much as we are, if you hate the remaster that's coming out, and you want to fight about it, hit us up on social media, guys. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Hit and subscribe, and also like the episode. Like I said, we want to know everything that we're doing well for the episode. James, I want to say thanks for coming in and waxing infernal with me today. We were speaking some different languages. It's nice. We've summoned some demons.
It's always good to speak in tongues.
That's right. Well, not always, but sometimes we've banished some demons today. I just want to say thanks, and hopefully, like I said, we'll be back again next week. Hopefully, once the computer situation gets fixed, then we can actually have a decent recording. I'm going to try and hopefully get either Kelly or Jackie on here with us to talk about something, because we haven't heard from either of them in a while. I think that'd be good to get the female perspective on things and not just get the male perspective on some stuff. So it'd be fun. So I don't know. We'll because I was thinking about we might do a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That would be really fun with Kelly. I think she'd really like that one. So, but anyways, guys, before we give away much of our season to go, I just want to say thanks for everybody coming by, and we will see you next time, guys. Have a great day. All right. Bye. If you're interested in keeping up to date with new episodes on our channel, add us on any of your favorite podcasting apps, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Seriously Pointless Conversations. If you have questions or concerns, please email us at seriouslypointlessconvo@gmail.com. We appreciate any feedback. Thank you for listening to our show.